Welcome to True Crime Stories for English Learners, where real-life mysteries meet clear and simple English.
The Lufthansa Heist. It was very early in the morning on December 11, 1978. The air at JFK Airport in New York was cold and still. Most people were sleeping, but at the Lufthansa cargo building, a few workers were starting their night shift. The lights inside the building were dim. The rooms were quiet. Nothing seemed unusual. Outside, in the darkness, a van slowly approached the building. The driver turned off the headlights. Inside the van, 6 men sat in silence. They wore dark clothes, gloves, and ski masks. They were calm, focused, and ready. Their leader, a man named Louis Werner, had given them the inside information, and another man, James "Jimmy the Gent" Burke, a well-known figure in New York's organized crime world, had planned the job carefully. The men waited for the right moment. Then, just before 3 a.m., they stepped out of the van. The next 60 minutes would become one of the biggest cash robberies in American history. The Lufthansa cargo building at JFK Airport stored valuable shipments from Europe. Many boxes were full of expensive jewelry, electronics, and luxury items. But the most important room was the vault, a secure storage area for money. Every week, Lufthansa flew millions of dollars from Germany to New York. The cash came from American soldiers stationed in Europe who sent money home. The bills were packed in metal containers and stored at the airport before being picked up by armored trucks. In December 1978, inside the vault, there was more than $5 million in cash. There was also nearly $1 million in jewelry. The airport had guards and security cameras. But the system was old, and the guards were not expecting any trouble. No one imagined that a group of thieves could break in and disappear without a trace. But Jimmy Burke had imagined it, and he had built the perfect plan. At exactly 2:55 a.m., the first guard stepped outside to check something near the gate. He did not notice the men moving silently in the shadows. Within seconds, the thieves grabbed him, pushed him to the ground, and tied his hands with tape. One of the thieves whispered, "Stay calm. Do what we say, and no one gets hurt." The guard was scared, but he did not resist. He knew he had no chance. The thieves then entered the building. They moved fast but quietly. They knew the layout of the rooms. They knew where the alarms were. They knew exactly which guard was on duty and where he would be standing. The information was perfect, and it came from an inside man. Inside the building, they found the night supervisor. They pointed a gun at him and said, "Take us to the vault." The supervisor's hands shook. He did not try to be a hero. He walked to the vault slowly, with one thief behind him. The rest of the team brought the other guards into the break room and tied them up. Now, the thieves were inside the building, in control, and ready for the most important part of the operation. The vault door was thick and heavy. It was impossible to break. But the supervisor had the keys. The thieves ordered him to open the vault. He hesitated, but a thief whispered, "Open it. Nobody needs to get hurt." Finally, the door opened. Inside were metal containers stacked on shelves. The thieves opened the first container, then the next. Inside were bricks of cash wrapped in rubber bands. There were so many bundles that the men could barely believe their eyes. They worked fast. They filled large bags with cash and jewelry. No alarms sounded, no guards came running. The plan was working perfectly. The thieves carried the bags to the waiting van outside. Each bag was heavy, thousands and thousands of bills. By the end, they had stolen more than $5.8 million, the biggest cash heist in U.S. history at that time. In less than 1 hour, the job was complete. Before leaving, one thief pointed at the tied-up guards and said, "Count to 100. Do not call anyone. Stay on the floor." Then, the men got into the van, closed the doors, and disappeared into the darkness of the airport. They did not fire a single shot. They did not injure anyone. But they had just made history. At 4:30 a.m., the guards finally freed themselves and called the police. Within minutes, police cars and FBI agents arrived at the cargo building. Everyone was shocked. The vault had been emptied. Millions of dollars were gone. The thieves left no fingerprints, no weapons, no clues. The FBI began interviewing the guards. They were frightened but unharmed. They described the thieves' voices, masks, and behavior, but the descriptions were too general. Nothing could identify the men. Agents studied airport logs, radio calls, and security tapes, but the cameras inside the building were old and blurry. The outside cameras did not cover the dark areas where the thieves had moved. Still, the FBI knew one thing. The thieves had inside information. They knew too much. The schedule, the guards, the money, the vault, and the alarms. Someone who worked at the airport had talked. The FBI first focused on Louis Werner, a cargo worker with gambling debts. Workers said he talked often about the vault and the money. He had told people how much cash entered the building every week. The FBI arrested him for an unrelated crime. Inside prison, he told other inmates details about the heist. This made agents even more suspicious. But the biggest name connected to the heist was Jimmy the Gent Burke. He was a high-level member of the Lucchese crime family, a powerful New York mafia group. Jimmy was smart, careful, and feared. People said he could plan a robbery like a chess game. But there was a problem for the FBI. Burke never left fingerprints. He never spoke on the phone. He trusted almost no one. They suspected him, but they could not prove anything. After the robbery, the thieves celebrated. They believed they had pulled off the perfect crime. But soon, things started to go wrong. One of the men bought an expensive new car. Another man bought expensive clothes and jewelry. Someone else bought his girlfriend a fur coat. This was exactly what Jimmy Burke had told them not to do. He had warned them, don't spend anything. Don't make people suspicious. But they didn't listen. Jimmy became angry, very angry. He believed their mistakes could bring the FBI to his door. He decided to protect himself the only way he understood. He started eliminating the people involved. One by one, several members of the heist team disappeared. One man was found in his car. Another disappeared and was never found. A couple connected to the robbery was found dead in a house. A driver vanished completely. The list grew. Jimmy Burke was cleaning up the operation. The FBI knew something terrible was happening, but they still could not connect Jimmy directly to the heist. The investigation lasted for years. Agents interviewed hundreds of people. They followed tips from New York, Florida, and even Europe. But the cash was never found. Most of the thieves were dead, and nobody talked. In 1980, a major piece of evidence appeared. Burke's associate, Henry Hill, was arrested on drug charges. To avoid a long prison sentence, he agreed to help the FBI. Hill told them everything he knew about the mafia, including details about the Lufthansa heist. But he had not been inside the cargo building. His information helped the FBI understand the crime, but it was not enough to arrest Jimmy for the robbery. Eventually, Jimmy Burke went to prison for other crimes. He died in 1996. The FBI never officially charged anyone for the heist. More than 40 years later, The Lufthansa heist is still considered one of the most famous robberies in American history. No one was ever convicted. The money was never recovered. The jewelry was never seen again. Many people believe the cash was used by the mafia, hidden in secret places, or spent long ago. Others think some of it still sits in bags buried deep underground somewhere in New York. Today, when people talk about the heist, they imagine a group of men moving quietly through a cold airport building. They imagine the vault full of money. They imagine the guards tied up on the floor. And they imagine the van driving away into the dark morning, carrying millions of dollars and a mystery that still has no ending. The Lufthansa heist shows how a careful plan, inside information, and cold determination can create a crime that becomes a legend. And, like many great heist stories, it ends with unanswered questions, missing money, and a mystery that still fascinates the world.
Another dark chapter closed, but the mystery of human nature continues. Thanks for listening to True Crime Stories for English Learners. Don't forget to subscribe and join me next time for another real story that's stranger than fiction.